Did you get it? Would you please get the phone?
Hello? Yes? No. Tommy is in Afghanistan. Didn't you know? Yes, for several years. All right. I'll tell him.
Who was that?
Tony Schellberg, Slayberg, somebody. He said he went to school with Tommy.
Tony Slaybaugh? Did he say what he wanted?
Said he wanted to talk to Tommy. I told him he wasn't here.
Didn't he know Tommy enlisted in high school?
Guess not. He just said, tell Tommy, hey.
How long has it been since we heard from him?
Who, Tony?
No, Tommy.
Dunno, a while.
It must be 2 months now.
Could be, I don't keep track.
I talked to Sue Payton, and she hears from her boy at least once a week, sometimes more. He emails her or talks to her on the internet.
Well, her boy isn't married.
What does that have to do with anything?
Tommy's married with 2 children. I'm sure he keeps in touch with his wife.
Yes, I suppose so, but she never calls to us to let us know how the kids are, what she hears from Tommy, how he's doing, or anything. When I call her, she acts like she's too busy to talk, and when I email her, she never answers.
Well, I suppose she has other things on her mind. She does have 2 little kids to take care of, Vivian.
Yeah, I guess. But it sure would be nice to hear from her now and then and to talk to the kids. You remember that movie we watched about, oh, what's the name of it? You know, the one with Woody Harrelson, and he played, The Messenger. That's it. About the soldiers who come to people's homes and report the death of a family member in combat.
Yeah, I remember. Why?
If something were to happen to Tommy, I mean, if he were killed, God forbid, who would they notify, Patty or us?
For God's sake! I'm sure he's just fine. Don't say anything like that.
Well, I just wondered, would they notify Patty or us?
Will you please stop thinking the worst? Tommy is fine.
Listen to this. An attack by the Taliban has just been reported against members of an army squad in Spin Boldak, southern Afghanistan, near the border with Pakistan. No further details are available. Spin Boldak? Oh my God, that's where Tommy is. Oh, I hope he's safe. This damned war, when will it end?
You spend way too much time on that computer, especially looking up stuff about the war. I think you think about it way too much.
I think you don't think about it enough, just like most Americans. The only time we hear anything is when one of them comes home in a casket, or on Veterans Day, when all the old men dress up in their uniforms and walk in a parade. Now and then you'll see a young person, but not very often. Mainly old men, some your age.
Old men? Me?
You know what I mean. They make such a big deal about our military and celebrating war, all for God and country and old glory.
Well, some people enjoy parades, and a lot of people go to them.
Just another way for us to celebrate and glorify war. In a lot of cities, Veterans for Peace aren't even allowed to march in the parades.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe if they were, people would get a sense of what our wars are costing us. And it wasn't even called Veterans Day until they changed the name.
What?
Veterans Day. It was originally called Armistice Day to honor the survivors of World War I and to celebrate peace. But for over 50 years, we've called it Veterans Day to celebrate war, and peace goes down the rabbit hole.
What's for supper?
Over 300 veterans from either Iraq or Afghanistan committed suicide last year. There are more young soldiers committing suicide than dying in combat. Why?
Hard to tell.
You can't tell me that they aren't changed radically after doing what they have to do month after month. How can they be expected to deal with all that, being forced to return to combat for 3, 4, sometimes as many as 5 times? And how do their families deal with it? How do they handle it? God! You know, just last year, there was a young man from Muncie, Indiana, I think it was, who was home for 2 weeks from Afghanistan, and he and his buddy were in a theater when he pulled out a pistol and killed himself. He had everything to live for, only 22 years old, and he killed himself rather than go back to Afghanistan. Right there in the movies, killed himself.
And I bet he wasn't counted as a casualty of war either.
He wasn't. The Army doesn't like admitting when one of their soldiers would rather put a gun to his head than fight in their wars.
Are we eating supper tonight?
Tommy has been in, what, over 10 years now?
About that, I suppose. Let's see. Yeah, he joined up right when he was still in high school.
Do you remember when he came home from school all excited and saying he wanted to enlist? That he talked to a recruiter who told him he could join the Army while he's still in high school. He was just a kid, 17 years old.
Yeah, I remember. And we said no. And then he brought the recruiter home one evening, and you asked the recruiter if you could guarantee that Tommy wouldn't have to go fight in a war while he's in the Army.
I will never forget that stupid smirk on his face when he said, "Well, ma'am, I can't guarantee that, but it's highly unlikely." That was before 9/11, when no one even heard of Iraq or Afghanistan or Al-Qaeda or WMDs.
And then the recruiter told us Tommy would only have to wait a couple of months until his 18th birthday, and then he wouldn't even need our permission. I wanted to wrap him right upside his head.
Then just 3 months after he graduated, he was in basic training. And a few months after that, he was in Iraq. He spent his 19th birthday in Tel Afar. God, that seems so long ago, and it seems like only yesterday. Now he's on his 4th tour.
Yeah, it was just before he went to Iraq. And that was when you and well, we went to D.C. together. God, there must have been 100,000 people there, marching, protesting, picketing the White House. We really believed we could stop it, that we could keep Tommy and all the rest of them from having to go fight a war based on lies, just like Vietnam.
There were millions of us all over the world in the streets saying, "Give peace a chance. No war, no la guerre, no war." Guess what? They went ahead and gave us war and took our kids to go fight it. A war based on lies.
That was 8 years ago. And it seemed to me right after we started it, in March 2003, when Tommy and the rest of the troops went to Iraq, people stopped protesting. Now, how do you figure that?
Folks gave up. We thought our government would listen to us, that they would come to their senses. We were wrong.
So we all felt like we were beaten. We put our tails between our legs and went back trying to live our lives as normal as we could. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Even President W. told us to go shopping. Remember?
Are we having supper tonight?
Listen to this. President Obama reports progress in Afghanistan. Yeah, right. Progress? For who? For the big money corporations who could care less about anything except making more money, no matter how many people are killed. That's real progress. You know something?
I know I'm hungry.
Remember how hard we worked to get Obama elected? And all the doors we knocked on and flyers we handed out and meetings and phone calls to get the vote out? I really thought he was serious about bringing the troops home. But now he's saying they could be in Afghanistan for years.
Well, you should know better than to believe what politicians say, especially when they're running for office or re-election.
Yeah, well, he really had me fooled. I mean, when he invoked images of Dr. King, when he was campaigning back in 2008, he even had a picture of Gandhi in his Senate office. And then they give him the Nobel Peace Prize. For what? I think he should give it back.
Yeah, like that'll happen. But then I never could understand why they gave it to him in the first place. I mean, he was only president for 6 months when they awarded it to him. Unless they thought it would impress him enough to live up to it, bring the troops home. By the way, did you get the message that your mother called?
Yes, I'll call her tomorrow. I know what she wants.
What?
She'll ask whether we heard from Tommy, and if not, why not? And then she'll probably want to lay a guilt trip on me for not going to church, and I'll say, "Yes, Mom, I have been a naughty girl. Say a prayer for me."
You haven't been to church in ages.
Nope. Why should I? Just a bunch of so-called Christians who avoid me because they don't know how to handle me. They know my views on the war and that I have a son in Afghanistan, and I think they don't know what to say to me. Why don't you go?
You know why I don't go. I don't have a mother who makes me feel guilty for not going. Besides, if I want to hear a preacher lecture me about the evils of man and ask for money, I'll watch it on TV. Won't cost me a dime.
Well, you know what I mean. These right-wing Christians who believe everything that O'Reilly, Limbaugh, and Glenn Beck say make me sick. You'd think if they really wanted to follow the words of Jesus, they would be against sending our young men and women thousands of miles away to kill and be killed. And for what?
That sounds pretty judgmental to me. Judge that ye be not judged, saith the Lord.
It's judge not, lest ye be judged. And we're really not sure the Lord said that. After all, he was pretty judgmental himself.
Well, you get my point.
Support the troops. What do they really mean when they say that? Those people who fly an American flag all year long and stick yellow support our troops ribbons on their SUVs or wear peace T-shirts to a rock concert and act so smug. Why don't they even know anybody in uniform, much less have a loved one over there? When they say support the troops, what they really mean is, and the war they're fighting.
Goodness, Vivian, what's got into you? You sound so bitter.
Do I? Maybe I am.
Well, you and I know there's a difference between supporting the troops and supporting the war.
Yeah, but they don't seem to get it, or don't want to.
Well, that's their problem.
No, it's our problem. Do you know how much these wars are costing us? I mean, not just the lives, as if that isn't awful enough, but the hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions even.
You're preaching to the choir, my dear.
I think I know why Patty doesn't call us.
Who?
Patty, Tommy's wife, our daughter-in-law. I may be wrong, but I think she doesn't know what to say to us either. Just like so many other people.
What do you mean? She must know that you and she both worry about Tommy and want him home safe.
I know, but she might think that our being against this war means we're against those fighting it.
That's silly. That would mean we'd be against our own son.
Well, why haven't we heard from her? I wish she and the kids didn't live so far away.
I don't know, Vivian. I just don't know.
Whenever someone starts talking to me about how proud I must be to have a son fighting for our freedoms, I want to gag. And some of them, when I tell them they're not fighting for my freedoms, that the only reason they're over there is that it makes lots of money for the companies that make lots of money off of war, they look at me as if I'm nuts or a pariah. Or they'll say, well, your son chose that. He wasn't drafted like they were in Vietnam or World War II or Korea. He didn't have to go.
What do you say to that?
That's when I bite my tongue. I want to tell them that we've had a draft for many years, a poverty draft, but I don't. I figure it wouldn't do any good. They wouldn't listen to me anyway, or they would get their panties in a bunch and get all defensive.
Poverty draft? I never heard you use that term before. Are you saying Tommy enlisted because we're poor?
I'm saying that he and a whole lot of other young kids were sold a bill of goods by our government and recruiters that if they would just sign up, they could earn money for a college degree and learn important skills. They never mentioned that they may never make it home alive, and if they do, they may be crippled or all messed up. I know we're not poor, dear, but we couldn't afford to send him to college like your parents did you.
I know. Do you want to go out for dinner?
What I'd like to know is why are military recruiters even allowed in schools anyway? Schools are for learning, not recruiting. I hear that some of them even roam the halls and go to games and hang out in the cafeteria looking for fresh meat. Some schools won't allow them the freedoms our schools do. But from here, from what I've been told, they waltz in wearing their uniforms, acting like they want to be buddies with our kids, when all they want is to sign them up and tell them how great Army life is.
I'm really hungry. What's it going to be? Stay in or go out?
Why don't we order in?
Yep, pepperoni. Frank, 10 minutes, okay.
Did you hear there were 6 more arrested for blocking a recruiter's office yesterday in Seattle, I think?
Are you saying getting ourselves arrested will bring Tommy home?
I'm saying that writing letters and picketing and going to vigils and praying for peace haven't worked. There are people who figure the only way we're going to make them listen to us is to do what Dr. King and Gandhi did. We've got to stop the war machine, the war corporations, and shut down the recruiters' offices. Look what they were able to do about smoking. Why can't they do that with war making? Make it illegal, or better yet, make it so those who decide wars are those who must fight them.
Oh yeah, that sounds very simple and very easy to pull off.
Hell no, it's not easy. It's damned hard, as a matter of fact. There are too many people making a pile of money off war. How many defense contracts does your company have? People have been trying to stop them for years.
Well, I don't think I can afford to be arrested and thrown in jail. I do have a job, you know.
Yes, I know. But that's what every person says too. Those who believe the war is wrong. And so we go on believing that we're doing all we can by writing letters and going to marches. I see there's another one scheduled next month in D.C.
When? Are we going?
I'm not going. You can go if you want to. You know what I read? What they said about Nixon when the Vietnam War was going on? His people would come and tell him that another protest was coming to Washington, and he would say, "Let the bastards come. They'll come and raise a little hell for one day, and the next day they'll be gone. It'll all be forgotten." Nope. I don't think it does much good anymore, not unless those 65% of Americans who are against the war take more drastic action.
And maybe that's the problem. I mean, look at all those who were in the streets in Egypt, 100,000 or more. And they stayed not just for a day, but for weeks until they got what they wanted. A lot of them had jobs, families, but they were committed, and the government knew it. So you're not going to D.C. then?
Nope. You can go if you want to. I'm not.
Well, I'm certainly not going if you're not. This doesn't sound like you. Have you given up?
I haven't given up. Someone once said, Einstein I think it was, that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insane. And how many marches and rallies have we been to and everything stays the same? In fact, it's a lot worse. 12 years we've been in Afghanistan. 12 freaking years. I can't see that Obama is any better than Bush when it comes to bringing our troops home, and a few other things as well.
Now, Vivian, wash out your mouth.
Okay, Mr. Wise Guy, you tell me. Didn't he promise to get rid of the old Bush tax cuts for the rich? Well, he didn't. Didn't he promise to dump Bush's Patriot Act? He didn't do that either. He said he would close Guantanamo within a year and hasn't. And he said he would bring the troops home from Iraq, and it took him 3 years to do that. And there are still 5,000 military contractors under the State Department. Most of us peaceniks voted for him because we believed he was a man of peace. But hell, Frank, look at how he's been using drones in Pakistan, killing innocent people. The Pentagon and CIA say the drones make surgical strikes and that they don't kill civilians. Yeah, right. Did you know that 30 middle-aged and older women with Code Pink just staged protest in Pakistan against our use of drones there? Oh, and remember when he promised a transparent administration? Well then, tell me why they still have Bradley Manning in prison for months now, and they're still trying to stifle WikiLeaks.
I know about WikiLeaks, but who's Bradley Manning?
Where have you been? I know you're not wild about using the computer, but don't you remember seeing videos of a U.S. helicopter gunning down innocent civilians in Baghdad?
Yeah, but I thought they were insurgents or whatever.
Bradley Manning is an Army private who supposedly leaked that footage to WikiLeaks, and now they have him in maximum security, solitary confinement, in fact, for going on a year, and still haven't pressed charges. Sounds an awful lot like Gitmo to me. And no, they were not insurgents. They were innocent civilians. A Reuters photographer was killed, too. That was in 2007, and we just found out about it, thanks to Bradley Manning and WikiLeaks. So much for transparency in this administration.
That's the pizza. So why don't we hear about any of this on TV?
Why don't we hear a lot of things on television? You have your TV and your precious basketball and football. I have the internet and access to a much freer press.
Well, let's just take a break from politics and have a little pizza.
I'm not hungry. You have me all upset now.
I've got you upset. Sure you don't want to have some? It's your favorite.
I'll eat mine tomorrow or later after you've gone to bed. Thanks.
You spend too much time on that computer, Vivian.
Now who's being judgmental? I think you spend too much time watching football and basketball and cable news.
What?
Nothing. I was just thinking.
Thinking about what?
Why did you marry me?
What kind of question is that?
Why did you marry me?
Because I loved you. Why else?
Loved? Past tense?
You asked me why I married you. Past tense. Loved is past tense. And if your question is, do I still love you? The answer is yes. Why on earth would you ask me such a question?
I don't know. I just remember when we were first married and when Tommy was little, we did a lot of things together. We don't hardly ever go out anymore.
And why do you think that is?
You tell me, why don't we?
Well, for one thing, we don't do much with other couples. Maybe they've outgrown us or we them. Maybe we're just getting old.
Bull crap.
All right. Tell me what you'd like to do. We'll do it.
We already are.
We are what?
We're doing now what I've wanted to do for a long time, talking about us.
Yeah, I noticed that. Although it would be nice to sit down to a nice home-cooked meal now and then.
Yes, it would. Why don't you cook one?
What are you doing on the computer?
Writing another letter to the editor.
Why don't you give that up? They haven't printed the last two you sent them.
I do it because I have to. I just can't sit on my butt watching TV and not do something, even if they won't print it. Have you ever wondered why we're put on this earth?
Wow. How existential. Not really. We're here. Why try to figure out why we're here? Just make the best of every day. That's my motto.
And you're doing that?
Doing what? Making the best of each day?
Yeah, exactly. Are you really making the best of each day?
Probably not, now that you mention it. When I look back and remember what I wanted to do with my life, I guess I failed miserably.
Failed who?
It's whom, my dear. And I guess I failed me, and maybe even you and Tommy. I've forgotten about the hopes and dreams of my youth and settled for just making it, day by day, paycheck to paycheck.
If you had lived your dreams, how different would your life be now? And would I be a part of it?
Look, if we're going to continue this conversation, I want to see your therapist's license.
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I sure wouldn't want to cause you to become upset, especially on a stomach full of pizza.
Look, there's still pieces left. Do you want some? It's good.
I'm sure it was. You looked like you were enjoying it.
You said you didn't want any.
I know, and I still don't. Finish it if you want. Oh, God, that feels so good. I'll give you 30 minutes to stop.
I just wish you wouldn't spend so much time worrying about Tommy. He'll be okay. He'll be back in a few months. He's safe.
I hope so. Do you think I obsess on this war? Maybe that's why we don't have many friends anymore. They probably see me as some wacko peacenik or just a pain in the ass, and a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. And maybe they see me as very opinionated. Could that be?
You? Opinionated? No. Look, people change. They get busy. They go their own ways. They have different interests, like their kids or their grandkids. And as far as agitating for peace, well, you know, it's a pretty conservative town we live in. You know that.
Frank, you know, we've only seen our grandchildren a couple of times since they were born. If something were to happen to Tommy, we might never see them or Patty ever again.
Don't say that. Don't think anything awful's going to happen to Tommy.
I don't want to think that way. Honest, I don't. But sometimes at night, I have these horrible dreams.
Day and night the battle rages, rockets burst and bullets fly. The bodies of the fallen are abandoned where they lie. But who are these silent women coming slowly down the road? And where could they be going in this cold and bitter snow? A soldier steps into the road and says you must go home. You cannot be allowed to pass into the combat zone. One woman looks him in the eye and says, shoot me if you will, but I've come to take my boy home, and I mean to find him still. I have come to take my boy home, for my heart is grievous sore. I have come to take my boy home from your ugly little war. You had no business sending him so far from his front door. I have come to take my boy home. You can't have him anymore. I did not raise my son to kill or spill his brother's blood. He never gets enough to eat and makes his bed in mud. Exhausted, cold, and hungry, he is ordered to attack. I won't have him treated this way, so I've come to take him back. I have come to take my boy home, for my heart is grievous sore. I have come to take my boy home from your ugly little war. You had no business sending him so far from his front door. I have come to take my boy home. You can't have him anymore. What if all the mothers in the world declared enough's enough and boldly faced the generals and dared to call their bluff? Marching on the battlefields, their voices raised in song, to find their missing sons and take them home where they belong.
I have come to take my boy home, for my heart is grievous sore. I have come to take my boy home from your ugly little war. You had no business sending him so far from his front door. I have come to take my boy home. You can't have him anymore.
You can't have him anymore.
Hello? This is she? No, I don't know anything about that. Where did you hear that? What paper? No, we don't subscribe to the paper. Well, I certainly hope it isn't so. All right. Thank you for calling. Goodbye. Here it is. Oh, God. The Department of Defense announced today the death of a soldier who was reporting Operation Enduring Freedom. Private Amy Harris, 23, died January 20 in Baghlan Province, Afghanistan, of wounds sustained when insurgents attacked her unit with a rocket-propelled grenade. She was assigned to the 17th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion, 3rd Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, Fort Richardson, Alaska. For more information, the media may contact the U.S. Army, Alaska. Frank, Amy Harris was killed yesterday.
Who?
Amy Harris. She enlisted the same time Tommy did. They went to school together. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!
How did you hear about it?
Sue Ellen just called. She said she saw a piece in the morning's paper. She said there were 3 soldiers killed in Baghlan Province in Afghanistan, but didn't list their names, pending notification. She thought that's where Tommy was. I looked it up, but that's in northern Afghanistan, and Tommy is in the south near Pakistan. God, I hope Tommy doesn't know about this.
Maybe you shouldn't have looked it up. I hate seeing you like this. There's nothing you can do that we can do.
Well, by God, I am sick and tired of hearing about our kids dying on some godforsaken mountaintop for no good reason. And there is something I can do, that I have to do.
Like what?
I don't know yet. But I'm tired of just praying for peace and writing letters and even rallies and speak-outs and protests. We've been doing that for years, and where has it gotten us? Just more deaths. More of our kids coming home in caskets or almost as bad in wheelchairs, and more wars.
Did you hear about those families up in Chicago and Minnesota? I think maybe St. Paul and Minneapolis where their houses were ransacked by the FBI?
Yeah, so are you worried they're going to come after us?
It could happen. You know, all the things you've been saying and doing, I'm sure they have their eyes on you. Probably on me too.
Then that's exactly what they want us to believe. And people like Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, and O'Reilly are selling paranoia, which feeds it even more. Big Brother is watching us, 1984, Orwell. We've been living it. Frank, if you're afraid I'm getting you in trouble, well...
Honey, you know I love you. I know you have to do this. I'm with you no matter what.
Even if it means getting visited by the FBI?
Sure, especially if they show up without a search warrant. We don't have to talk to them. We just say, no thank you, close the door, leave, go get an ice cream cone.
And if they do show up with a search warrant and start something?
Let them look. We don't have anything to hide, do we? Do you?
It could end up with you losing your job.
I was looking for a job when I found this one.
But jobs aren't there now like they were then. You know that.
Well, you said before that what keeps people from speaking out, afraid they'll lose their job. Honey, look, if you tell me that nothing you've tried, nothing we've tried has worked, then we have 2 choices. One is to quit, give it up, go back to living normal lives like all our old friends. I'll go back to playing golf, watching more football, and then we'd have fewer frustrations and disappointments. Or, like you said, we can try something different. I'm with you, no matter what.
I loved all games and fairy tales, as strangely odd as that may seem. I loved firelight and witches' tales. You see, you were there in my dreams. I lived in a tower, cloud top high, to stop your love from passing by. For this I simply had to do. You see, I was...
on earth have you been?
Jail.
Yeah, right.
Jail. I've been to jail. I got OR'd.
Oh, Ard?
Released on my own reconnaissance. OR'd.
Wait a minute. Why were you in jail?
I wasn't there very long. I told you I was going to the recruiter's office today, didn't I?
No, you did not. Why did you go there?
I wanted to talk with a recruiter, and then I picketed the place. And the cops showed up and told me to leave. I didn't, so they arrested me.
Oh, wait a minute. Back up. What were you doing at the recruiter's office?
You would have been very proud of me. I was very well behaved. I simply asked to speak with the person in charge, and this nice-looking young man, very good-looking, with lots of ribbons and medals on this uniform, he couldn't have been much older than Tommy, came up and took me into his office. We had a nice chat.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what is it you chatted about?
I just wanted to know if he knew the gentleman who recruited Tommy when he was still in high school. He said he didn't think so. After I told him who I was and where Tommy went to school, I was very polite. Like I said, you would have been proud of me.
And then you left?
No, there were a few more questions I had for him.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
I simply wanted to know if his bosses set a quota for him, and how he went about meeting it, and whether he gets points on the numbers of young people he signs up. I noticed he started to become a little edgy when I asked him that. I don't know why.
Oh, of course you didn't. You are so naive.
Yes, I am, and cute, too. So then I asked him if he or any of his recruiters ever told young people that if they enlisted, they would end up going to Iraq or Afghanistan. He said that question never came up, and he couldn't guarantee what their MOS would be or where they would go. Then I asked him if they ever told recruits that they could get out any time under a failure to adapt clause. I could tell he was about to throw me out at that point.
And that's when you left?
Of course not. I was getting a real education talking to that fine young man. Let's see, oh yeah, then I asked him if recruits are ever told they would be absolutely guaranteed to get the job listed on their enlistment contract.
And?
He said that the Army does their best to place their soldiers in jobs they're most suited for, but no one can be absolutely certain they'll get the job they want. When I asked him what percentage of recruits wind up in Afghanistan or Iraq, he got up and said he had other important work to finish and asked me to leave. So I stayed.
You stayed? What do you mean you stayed?
I had several more questions I wanted answered, so I stayed.
So then what happened?
Well, he left or went into another office or something, I don't know. I waited a while, but he didn't come back, so I got up, picked up a bunch of his brochures, left some of mine, and then I left.
And what's the business about you getting arrested?
Well, I got a bunch of my signs out of the car and put them in front of the recruiter's office on the sidewalk. That's when one of the fellows in uniform came out and asked me to leave.
But you didn't.
Nope. Why should I? I knew my First Amendment rights.
And the cops showed up?
Not right away, but yes, eventually they did show up, and when I refused to leave, they cuffed me and took me to lockup.
My God, my wife is a common criminal.
I resent being called common.
Where did you get that one placard with all the pictures on it?
I made it. 715 young men and women, all dead, just in the past year. And your man, Obama, said he was a man of peace.
He's not my man, not anymore. Looks like he went to a lot of work to make that.
Yeah, it kept me off the streets for a little while. It was hard, though, looking at the faces of all those young men and a few women. Some look like teenagers, and they're all dead. All dead.
So what did you do with that? The placard, I mean.
Well, I figured I had to do something to get people's attention. If people could see the faces of these young men and women who have given their lives, whose lives were taken from them, they might begin to ask why. And especially young people, and especially at a place that recruits young people for the War Department. It just might change their minds. It changes only one mind. That would be good.
Do you really think so? I mean, we've been at this war for 12 years in Afghanistan, and it doesn't get any ink in the press. Wolf Blitzer isn't talking about it anymore. Do you really think people give a damn?
I'm beginning to wonder. I think maybe the only thing that's going to change people's mind about this war is economics. How much it's costing them in dollars. And then they don't seem to make the connection. The fact that 51% of their tax dollars go to the Pentagon.
So I didn't see anything about you on the 6 o'clock news. Did you call the media?
Sure. I'm not surprised they didn't show up. Why should they do my advertising for me? But I always call them anyway.
It's late. You must be beat. Let's go to bed.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? Young girls have picked them every one. Oh, when will they ever learn? Oh, when will they ever learn? Where
Thanks.
What are you reading?
One of your books, Vietnam, The Logic of Withdrawal, by Howard Zinn.
That's an oldie but a goldie. What do you think of it? I see you're almost finished.
It's interesting. I've heard you talk about Zen before, but I never knew he was an activist at such an early age.
Yep, before you and I were born.
Why hasn't there been much news about him?
Why do you think? You're a bright man. Why wasn't anyone from the media at my arrest on Friday? I called them and gave them plenty of notice.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Zinn was a brilliant man. He wasn't what you would call a dynamic speaker, but he could really speak to the people. He just died last year, 88 years old, and he was swimming when he had a heart attack. He will be missed a lot. They don't make them like him anymore. And Noam Chomsky. He's getting up in years now, too.
Noam Husky?
Frank, sometimes I have to wonder about you.
Well, I don't spend half my life on the computer. And my dearest, someone has to earn bread money around this house. In spite of all the work you've done in the peace movement, it hasn't brought in a single dime.
Yes, my dearest, and don't think I don't appreciate your kindness. If you like that book, I have a couple more for you by Zinn.
Thanks. I'll let you know. But this last chapter is great. It's a speech he wrote for LBJ to deliver to the nation, apologizing for the war in Nam. He's pretty much saying that the war had become pointless and he made the decision to bring the troops home. It was an apology for all the deaths and destruction that happened under his watch.
Yes, I know. What did you think of it?
Well, of course, Johnson never delivered it and probably never even read it, but it's quite interesting. I wonder if he had delivered the speech, if he would have been reelected. That is, if he hadn't dropped out of the race.
Maybe he would have, and maybe Zinn thought so too. We'll never know. I'm glad you're taking an interest in what I read.
Well, I'm sure the FBI does, so why shouldn't I? By the way, do you want to talk about what you went through at lockup, I mean?
Sure. If you do.
It's your mother. You want me to tell you're not her?
No, you can't lie well enough to fool her. Give it to me. Hello, Mother. Yes, Mother. No. No. No, I did not. Because I didn't feel like it, that's why. Mother, Mom, look, Mom, I've got some things I have to do. Yeah, I know that. Mother, I have to run. Bye, Mom. Goodbye, Mother. Oh, that woman!
I could have told her you couldn't talk. You get so upset when you talk to her.
I know. I wonder if Tommy feels that way when he talks to me.
No. I can't imagine he does. You aren't your mother.
No, but I'm still his mother. And I can be very critical and judgmental sometimes.
You? Never.
Where were we? Oh, yes, you were asking about my respite.
No, I asked you if you wanted to talk about your ordeal with the law.
Same thing. Respite. Jail time. It was fine. It gave me some time to think.
I hated that you chose to go to jail. What was it like there?
I didn't mind. Like I said, I had a little time to think. There was only one other woman in lockup, and she was arrested on a drunken disorderly, I think. She slept most of the time. The guards were very nice. They didn't treat me like I was a criminal. Besides, I was only in lockup for a couple hours before I got OR'd.
Well, I was worried about you, and I missed you. When is your court date? Are you going to hire a lawyer?
It's not for a couple of months. No, I won't hire a lawyer.
So you're just going to plead guilty and pay a fine?
No, I will not plead guilty. I will plead not guilty.
Not guilty? And you're not going to hire a lawyer to help with your defense?
Nope. Why should I? Since when is trying to keep young men and women from becoming cannon fodder a crime?
Well, I'm going to go with you to the court.
What have you been doing all day?
Reading? This Zinn guy must have been really something.
Yeah, he surely was. I wish I could have known him or at least met him.
Vivian! Where were you just now?
What?
Just now. You're crying.
Well, now, maybe just a little. I was just thinking about Tommy. I feel so powerless. When he was little, I was always so protective. You know that. You made fun of me. I made sure I knew where he was and who he was with, when he would be home. I made sure he got to school on time. Always had his lunch packed for him. Made sure he did his homework and all the stuff moms are supposed to do. I know he hated that, especially when he got to be a teen. It feels so strange to have him so far away, not knowing whether he is safe, not knowing when or if I'll ever see him again.
Viv, you've been a good mother to Tommy. You'll see him again. Soon.
How do you know that?
I just know.
You don't know. And neither does any soldier's wife or husband or father or mother or brother or sister. None of us know. They train our kids to be killers and then they send them off to a war and forget about them. There's nothing. They're nothing more than numbers, cannon fodder. And when they are wounded or killed, they become statistics and then they call them heroes. Or they come home all used up, weary, having to deal with all they've been through. We're the ones who are left to worry about them, and then when we haven't heard from them for months, we become scared to death. Every time we hear of another attack in which they might be lying on some damned unnamed mountaintop we never heard of, fighting, just trying to stay alive. And then we wait for the doorbell again and again and afraid that it might ring
Honey.
someday.
Hi.
What the hell are they dying for over there? Who are they? Why are they there? No one can tell me. We've had troops in Afghanistan for over 12 years. And all the young men and young women who come home crippled or with PTSD and TBIs, Frank, we've got to do something. We have to bring all of them back home. We can't wait for someone else to do it.
I know. I know. I know.
I don't know what to do.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer and the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn.
Honey, I'm home.
Shh. Yes, I just wondered how you and the kids are doing. It's Patty. That's nice. I hadn't talked to you for quite a while, and we hope everything is all right. How are the boys doing? Sure wish we could see them and you. Do you hear much from Tommy? Oh, good. Oh, 3 to 4 times a week. Marvelous. Patty, does he ever say whether he is getting our packages? Oh, well, yes, I'm sure he does get lots of packages, and that's nice. Patty, I don't know how to say this, but are things okay between you and me? Well, I was just wondering. I was mentioning to Frank just the other day that we never hear anything from you, and oh yes, of course you are busy, dear, especially with the little ones. They are so precious. I'm sure you're a very good mother to them. And that's what Frank said too, that being responsible for the boys and doing everything you have to do and keeping house. I don't know when you find the time. Yes, he said that too. You know something? I was afraid that you saw me as a prying mother, or if you see me as the enemy, since Frank and I have been speaking out against the war. Hello? Patty? Oh, I thought I'd lost you. Yeah, I surely don't want you to think of me as being against the troops, as some people see us. I'm just against the war. In fact, I think you and I have some of the same worries about Tommy being so far away and worrying about his safety. Me as a mom and you as his wife. Yes. Of course. Yes. Well, I just needed to say that to you so there's no misunderstanding between us. We love you, Patty, and the kids, and I know how much you are looking forward to having Tommy back home again, and I'm sure he can't wait either. We both wish you lived closer so we could see you and the boys more often. Yes, sure. Patty? Patty? Would you mind doing me a favor and ask Tommy the next time you talk with him if he would just drop us an email now and then? It doesn't have to be often. Just a little note would be nice. Will do. And give the kids a big hug from Grandma and Grandpa, will you? Love you. Bye, Patty.
That was Patty, I take it.
Damn, that was a hard call to make. Yes, it was Patty.
So how'd it go?
Okay, I think. It was hard for me not to come off accusatory, but I needed to make some connection with the wife of our son, and I think I did. I don't know where it goes from here, but I just needed to tell her that she and we are on the same side, that we want Tommy home safe and sound, and that we worry about him just as she does.
I'm proud of you. I'm sure that was difficult, but I'm really glad you did it.
We'll see what happens next. I'm going to try to maintain a positive attitude, but we still have lots of work to do.
What do you mean, we, Kemosabe?
Where on earth did you come up with that? You're not old enough to remember the Lone Ranger.
My dad used to call me Kemosabe when I was a kid. Kemosabe.
Do you miss him?
Yeah, now and then, I guess. Sometimes more than others. I suppose in some ways our relationship was a lot like Tommy's and mine. When I was younger, he and I used to spend a lot of time together. He used to take me fishing, long walks in the park. I wish back then that he and Mom came to more of my games.
Remember when Tommy was in sports? He never seemed to want us to come to his games. I think it was a macho thing, or maybe he was afraid we would embarrass him by rooting for him or acting foolish.
Yeah, I remember. Could have been the same thing with me and my dad. Maybe I gave him the same impression. But I think he was a good dad.
So are you. You have been a very good dad to Tommy. I think it's natural for parents to question their parenting skills, especially as their kids get older or get in trouble. Too bad we didn't question them when we were younger, when it was most needed.
Yeah, for sure. I wish Tommy had the chance to be a good dad to his kids. I mean, not that he isn't, but you know, being away for a year at a time must take an awful toll on him. Well, not just him, but Patty and the kids as well.
You know what?
What?
I think it's time I let go of Tommy.
I don't understand.
I don't know about you, but I still think of him as my little Tommy. I still worry about him and want to do everything I can to protect him, make him safe.
What's wrong with that? You're his mother.
I know, but maybe that's part of what's causing the tension between Patty and me. You remember how resentful I was when I thought your mom was trying to control you, us. Now looking back, I don't think it was that at all. I think she just loved you a lot, just like I loved Tommy, and maybe neither one of us, your mom nor I, knew how to develop the kind of relationship with each other that was good, healthy, you know.
Yeah, I do. But I also know that you and she get along fine now. You even go out for lunch sometimes, do a lot of things together. Too bad you and your mom can't have that.
Maybe she just needed to let go of you, like I need to let go of Tommy.
Well, it's late. Let's go to bed. Each one of us has had a pretty full day.
Frank, I just want to tell you how much I love you and how much I really appreciate and feel your support and our being able to talk. It means a lot to me.
It does to me too. Let's go to bed.
It's very clear our love is here to stay. Not for a year, but ever and a day.
Bring 'em all home! Make this senseless killing stop!
Good morning. What time did you get up?
Just a little while ago. I didn't sleep very well. How about you?
Slept like a baby. Very well. Thank you very much.
I just opened my email and there's one from Tommy. I haven't read it yet. I wanted to wait until you were here.
Why didn't you just read it?
I was afraid. It's been so long since we got anything from him. I don't know. Will you just come sit with me and we'll read it together?
Sure. You want some coffee?
No, bring yours. It's dated today at 1:33 a.m. Is that the time there or here? Dear Mom and Dad, I'm sorry it's been so long since I wrote you. I don't have any good excuse. Would you just read it?
Sure, honey. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm sorry it's been so long since I wrote you. I don't have any good excuse. Let's chalk it up to my being irresponsible and busy. I know you must have been worried about me, not hearing anything, but I assumed you and Patty were talking on a regular basis and she kept you up to date. I just learned that wasn't the case. She told me that you and she talked yesterday, that this is the first time in a long time, and that you had asked her to have me email you. Thanks a lot for the packages you've been sending. What I can't use, I share with my buddies. Mom, Dad, I've been in the Army going on 10 years now. I hope to make it a career. If I stay in another 10 years, I could retire. but I don't think I can take it anymore. Things are not good here at all. Several of my buddies are gone, dead. After 4 deployments, I don't have it in me anymore. I don't see the point. Walter, I think I mentioned him to you before, went home minus a leg and an arm. I'm thinking about not re-enlisting this time. I've had it. I haven't said anything to Patty. She would worry. Gotta go. I will write more later, I promise. I love you both. Tommy.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all he wrote.
Oh, Frank, I'm worried. I didn't tell you, but last night, I don't know what time it was, I must have had a nightmare. I dreamed I heard bombs, rockets. It was awful. I think I heard Tommy's calling out. I don't know where I was, but when I woke up, I imagined our Tommy was in trouble, that he was in a firefight. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't help him. And then this morning, this email, 1:33 a.m., that's about the time I had that awful nightmare.
And you think they're connected, your nightmare and Tommy's email?
I don't know, Frank. You read what he wrote, that things are bad over there.
Well, we knew that. Do you think you should call Patty?
No, she has enough on her mind, and this would worry her even more. Like Tommy said, he hadn't mentioned anything to her, and I won't either. It's up to him to do that. There are 100,000 of our soldiers in Afghanistan. That makes 100,000 moms, dad, wives, family members that must have the same feelings I have. You have. We have. And you know what? I don't know one other family that has someone over there. Oh, God. I still haven't called Jan Harris.
Who?
Janet Harris. And Frank, you remember me telling you about Amy being killed last week. They'll be having her funeral soon. I don't know if I can bring myself to go. God, I feel so awful for them. I don't know what I would do if that happened to Tommy, but that could happen to any of them over there, at any time. Oh, Frank, hold me, please.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you.
To military families, speak out. I found your website on the internet, and I am writing to you because I have a son in the military deployed in Afghanistan. This is his 4th deployment since he enlisted when he was still in high school in 2000. I think he is considering getting out even though he had planned to make it his career, but I can't be sure. I understand your organization exists for military families who are opposed to the war. According to your website, you say that since soldiers are prohibited from speaking out, family members must speak out for them. I would like to become a member of your group and hope that I can be connected to others who oppose the war and who have loved ones in the military as well. There. That should do it. Frank, come see how this sounds. It's an email I'm writing to Tommy. Let me know if it's okay or if you think I should change anything.
Okay, dear Tommy, thank you so much for your email. We were so excited to get it. Dad and I read it this morning together. I'm sorry about any misunderstandings between Patty and me. I guess it was just one of those failure to communicate things. She seems like such a good person. I wish we had the chance to get to know each other better. I see pictures of the boys on Facebook, and it's easy to tell she's a good mom. Gosh, how your boys are growing. I wish we could see her and the kids more often, but we live so far apart. And maybe we'll try to make the trip if Dad can get some time off. Tommy, from your email, it sounds very much like you may be thinking against making the Army your career. You have no idea how good that made us feel. But the decision, of course, must be yours, and Patty's, of course. After having served over 10 years, I'm sure the decision will not be an easy one. But the fact that you have to go through day in and day out must be horrible. Whatever you decide, we will support and stand beside you. We have never said anything to you about your choice to become a career man, perhaps because we have no right to tell you what we think you should do. You are a grown man with a family, and I've had a hard time letting go. You will always be our son, and we love you a lot. But now you have your own family, and we want to support you in any way that we can and not interfere. Please let us know if there's anything you need other than what we've been mailing you. I trust you've been getting all our packages. The important thing is that you stay safe. We will be counting the days, as I'm sure Patty is, until you'll be home again. Write when you can. It doesn't have to be a long letter, just a note to let us know you're okay. We love you and miss you, Mom and Dad.
What do you think? Did I miss anything?
No, I can't think of a thing. It's great. When is Tommy due to come back home to the States?
3 months, if they don't extend it.
Well, I don't think they're stop-lossing anyone anymore, but it's going to be a long 3 months.
Yes, for all of us. Do you have any vacation time coming?
Yeah, about 2 weeks. Why?
Let's go visit our daughter and grandsons, just for a few days. I'm feeling a need to hold them and let them see what their grandpa and grandma look like. And there is a rally in Raleigh we can go to afterward.
I thought you gave up on rallies and marches.
Well, I got to thinking about what A.J. Musty said to a reporter a long, long time ago, during the war that you were in.
Huh? What? A.J. who?
Musty, A.J. Musty. For years, he was active in the pacifist movement, the labor movement, and the U.S. civil rights movement. When he was in his 80s, not long before he died, he would show up with other peace activists to demonstrate against the war in front of the White House. One day, it was raining and he was the only one who showed up, standing alone, holding an umbrella in one hand and a candle in the other. A reporter came up to him and asked him if he really thought he could change our government by standing there in the rain with a candle under an umbrella. Musty looked at him and said, "Oh, no, young man. I'm not doing this to change our government. I do this so our government doesn't change me."
Well, my dear, if the government tries changing you, I think they'll be having a real fight on their hands.
You betcha, Kimosabe.
Hello, Mrs. Taylor. I'm Captain Harris, and this is Sergeant Newhouse. May we come in, please? Are you Mrs. Taylor? May we come in?
No! 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 No!
from your ugly little boy. You had no business sending him so far from his front door. I have come to take my boy home. You can't have him anymore.
You can't have him